Hey guys, so before we start the video, I forgot to say a huge thank you to Sean for helping me make this video and helping me do this podcast / interview. If you want to know more about him, you can check out the links in the description for his website and the book and Wilson Tennis that he's working with. So make sure to leave a like and a comment and let me know if you want to see more of these. Thanks guys, let's start the video. Good morning everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm here in beautiful Stamford, Connecticut with Sean Brawley himself. You may have seen him in a video recently on Wilson Tennis. He interviewed Roger Federer, is that correct?
That's correct.
He, talking about the mental game, he helped and gave insight on the inner game of tennis, the book as well, which is a fascinating book, great read for young players to read when coming up in the game. But I'm here with my former coach and former and current friend that I've been working with since I was 14 years old, and I'm really appreciative that he came today. Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate this. Thank you for taking time out of your day.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Philip.
So I was hoping to just ask you a couple questions on just how you go about teaching the mental game to people like me and to younger kids. So you've coached with Pete Carroll, former tennis players, current tennis players, and you've been working with companies to teach them how to work with skills and how to develop leadership as well. Is there any similarities that you can see between not just sports but also companies as well when it comes to developing a team and the mental preparation that it takes to become a team as well?
Yeah. Well, you started with the first question about how do I teach the mental game, and the first answer just to kind of clarify is that in a way I don't, because it's not just a mental game. Mm-hmm. Like everything we do is all combined. It's holistic.
Yeah.
And so over time, what I have done is I do understand how the mind affects learning, performance, and the enjoyment of everything that we do. And the way we do anything is the way we do everything. And so it doesn't matter whether somebody's playing tennis, golf, or leading a team at work. Mm-hmm. Their capacities and skills and their ability to express that is usually interfered or reduced by their self-interference. We all get in our own way.
Okay.
We all have limited perspectives, negative self-talk, fear, judgment. The list is quite long of the number of ways in which we can get in the way of our performance or enjoyment of what we're doing. So I help people overcome those inner obstacles. Mm-hmm. And in addition, I've also discovered a very simple, very effective approach based around controlling focus of attention that accelerates learning and development. Mm-hmm. And these are the two paths. So if you want to improve performance, Phil, I don't know if you remember all those lessons. Basically it equals, there's a little formula you can use. Performance equals potential minus interference. Mm-hmm. So there's two distinct paths. You can develop potential, or you can figure out how to reduce the interference.
All those lessons, the 5 pillars that you've taught me, this equation, it's really insightful to understand that it's not just the physical aspect, which a lot of people rely on. It's also the mental aspect that a lot of people just forget about, and to understand how you play well. Federer even said in many interviews that as a kid, he saw videos of himself throwing his racket, and his father told him how stupid he looks, how embarrassing it is, and that's where he kind of developed his self-awareness, calming down. That whole mental preparation that he has to do before each match is really key to understanding and winning as many titles as he has.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Fed and the anger problem. It's actually, he talks about it in the video. Mm-hmm. He was known as a hothead, and I was surprised to learn that it took him over 3 years to get a handle on his anger issue. And he described it quite beautifully. He said now he feels like he's got a balance between the fire and the ice. And the ice is the calm, cool, and collected that we all see. But underneath, there's like this, fire and this passion for winning and competing. And so it's like he was able to transform this anger that really hurt him and has used it for more fuel and motivation. So it's really quite a wonderful story that, if people can go to that interview on Wilson.com, it's quite good, quite interesting.
So my next question that I had for you today was, going back to when you played for USC and playing on the pro circuit, what do you think the biggest difference is between playing pro tennis and college tennis is?
Well, I mean, boy, the whole landscape is changing. So, I mean, based on right now, the difference is just your support system. In college, you have, most likely if you're good, you have a scholarship, you have a coach, you have courts, all your equipment, balls, everything's taken care of. Your work is to, go to class. But you get, 4 years to really develop your game and have matches. And as soon as you're out on the pro tour, I actually wrote an article about it for a Southern Cal tennis magazine a long time ago. It was called Thrown to the Wolves, because you go from this, like, I'm special at my club, I'm pretty special on my team, and there's just total support. And then you go out and that's your job. And it's suddenly, for a lot of people, you're by yourself. So, it's when you go out on the tour, the real question is how much support do you have? And that differs for everybody. That being said, it'll be very interesting with the way the ATP Tour is changing. It's not widely known at the moment, but it looks pretty certain that they're going to make changes that limit the number of players on the tour to about 750. And so what that is almost sure going to do is revamp the whole, because it's been not a... Steve Johnson is like 37 in the world right now. He played for SC, helped him win 4 titles. He won 2 national championships. We haven't seen anything like that in a while, because a lot of players skip college. And at the USTA, for instance, used to tell people, don't go to college. Just, if you had a chance, just go pro. Straight on the pro tour. But I think this is going to change quite dramatically. The ATP, they're creating like a 21 and under circuit, it looks like. And then their main circuit is going to be limited to like 750 people. I think you're going to see a heck of a lot more people wanting to play in college.
Well, do you think the Challenger Tour is kind of that under 21 stage where people get to try out the pro tour before going full pro?
Yeah, the Futures and the Challenger, sure. Yeah.
Do you think that'll help, or do you think that just invites the idea of just going pro?
Would help what? What do you mean by help?
Like, it helped them get the idea that if they want to do it, they can. If they don't want to do it, they can just stick to the Futures and Challengers. Because there's not much money in that as well.
Well, again, the way it is structured at the moment, there's, a lot of people around the world, European and U.S., that have chosen to not go to college, especially on the women's side. I mean, if you're a young girl and you're, top in the country or the world, I mean, it's doubtful that you're going to go to college.
That's you do see a lot.
So I mean, the whole idea of a Futures and Challenger circuit is developmental. The whole idea is to provide opportunities for people to play on a pro level, but at a lower pro. It's like the minor leagues in baseball.
Absolutely.
So, they've created opportunities. What people do with those opportunities, that's their choice. I think that's changing now. I think it's going to start changing.
Okay. Interesting. I never thought of it that way. So my next question for you would be, how has the mental game changed over the years? I think you've touched about that a little bit during this interview, but how has it what direction is it going towards, especially for this generation of tennis players?
Okay, so there's two aspects to your question. One is the mental game in and of itself hasn't changed at all in probably 50,000 years. The way the mind affects us, and, we don't really like to admit it, but a lot of people are suffering out there. We're always in between this state of, like joy and misery. And, there's a lot of things that people experience in their life that can create a lot of suffering.
Absolutely.
It may sound funny, but if you just look out on the tennis courts, if you look out a row of 10 tennis courts, you see some people enjoying the game, but you see a lot of people throwing their racket, getting mad. Tennis is supposed to be a game. It's there for enjoyment purposes and for learning and for competing in a healthy way. And if people are getting angry and throwing their rackets, then something's wrong. On the other hand, in terms of what I also think your question asks, which is like what is our idea about the mental game? So I think it is changing. I think the old idea is like Jim Lair and other people, this is like 20 years ago, it was mostly about routines, having rituals on the court, making sure you control yourself in between points and visualizing. And I think my mentor was Tim Galway. The inner game of tennis, is 45 years old this year, and I think it really just has a basis that really is helpful, which is where we're heading, which is to rediscover that we actually have a natural way in which people learn. So instead of having a teaching style that we've been using for a long time that's in a model of what I call the fix-it or the medical model, where you see somebody play and you see what they're doing wrong if you're a coach or a parent. And I think it's shifting to a more holistic model, a developmental model, and I think it's going to be incorporated in. I've created a program and an approach, for instance, where the training is all-inclusive. There's no need to you could do off-court stuff like meditation, but while you're on the court, you're so engaged and focused, and you're working on core capacities like tracking the ball, balance, and contact point that shape technique that I think it's going to be. This is where we're heading. We're holistic, mindful learning.
Absolutely. By the way, if you want to listen to any of Sean's inside tips, go to SeanBrawley.com. That's SeanBrawley.com. So for my final question of today's interview, I would say, what advice would you give young tennis players for the mental game? How would you advise them, especially growing up when it comes to the mental game?
Well, it's being proven without a doubt that it's never too late to start meditating. Meditating is the number one thing that I tell people to do. It's been the most helpful by far of anything that I've done in my life. Over time, it's like compound interest. $10 in the bank, and 7 years is worth whatever. $17 it really helps deregulate the central nervous system. It puts the person into what's called the parasympathetic system, which is the relaxed system. And it's very important that the body understand how to really find a deep state of relaxation as a foundation for strenuous, stressful activities like competitive tennis. Outside of meditation, it's what I was just talking about. It's really making sure that every shot has a purpose. That there's no reason to just blindly, mindlessly practice anymore. You want to have a focus and a purpose for every practice, every shot you hit. And that focus and that engagement helps accelerate the learning, and it helps make it more fun and enjoyable. So I'd say those two things are important.
That's great. Well, again, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come visit me and to come say hello to the tweener heads out there. I hope we can do this again sometime, and thank you for coming on again.
It's good to be with you, Philip. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Thanks, Sean. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and follow us on YouTube and Facebook. We're also on those platforms too, so make sure to follow. Thanks, guys.